Hey, 6th grade, we are going to see if the volume works this time, like if it's actually recording my voice, so fingers crossed. Alright, we are starting lesson 8.3, write algebraic expressions to model situations. And up here at the top of the page, we have our I can statement. I can use variables to write an algebraic expression to represent a real-world problem. Kiddos, this is when we start adding those little letters into our numerical expressions. And since we're adding these unknown values and we're adding letters, it is now called an algebraic expression. So we need to turn over to page 248 for this one. So make sure you're on page 248. 3 of your vocabulary words are right here for you. And you'll need those, like you'll be looking those up anyway in your glossary. So it says an algebraic expression is an expression that contains one or more variables. That's where those little letters come into play. A variable is a letter or symbol used to represent one or more unknown quantities. And a constant is a specific number whose value does not change. We also have another vocabulary word up here in the corner. A coefficient is the number that is multiplied by the variable in an algebraic expression. So, if we have 2x plus 75 as our example of an algebraic expression, the number 2 is the coefficient because it is being multiplied by this variable by x. Tells us x is a variable because it's the letter or symbol used to represent some unknown number. 75 right here, that one is a constant. So let's go on with number 1. See what we have happening here. It says a daycare center has 2 baskets of dolls. One basket has 8 dolls and the other basket has an unknown number of dolls in it. What expression can you use to write this situation? And then we're being asked, can you write a numerical expression to represent this situation? And we have to explain. So we know that there's 2 baskets of dolls. We know that one basket has 8 dolls and the other has an unknown number in there. So can we write an expression using only numbers? Because that's what a numerical expression is. I'm going to say no, because we don't have all of the information. We only have the other basket has an unknown number, so we can't put a number with that. No, we don't have enough information. Alright, so, nope, we sure cannot write a numerical expression because we don't have enough information. And next we're being asked, what do you know about this situation? Complete the sentence. Well, we know that there are 2 baskets, and we know that one of the baskets has 8 dolls in it. The other basket has an unknown number of dolls. So, if you do not have all the information you need, could you still write an expression to represent this situation? Explain. So, the answer to this would be yes. Because they're not asking for a specific expression. They're just asking if we can write an expression. And you know what? We can. Yes, comma, we can write an algebraic expression because we can put in a variable. And like we learned up here at the top, a variable is a letter or symbol that represents this unknown quantity. So yes, we can still write an expression. We would just write an algebraic expression. Alright, now for part D. It's asking us to complete the bar model to represent this situation. Then write an expression to represent the bar model. So in this first section that's blocked off for us, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's the 8 dolls. And in this one large section, it's not broken into any pieces because we don't know how many dolls are in that second basket. So I'm just going to label it as D for dolls. So the expression is 8 plus D. And then it says, explain why the expression in part D is an algebraic expression. Identify the coefficient. So, part D, this 8 plus D, is an algebraic expression because it has an unknown variable in it. Okay, so the reason that part D is an algebraic expression is because it has an unknown value or variable. Next up, we're being told to identify the coefficient. Okay, they made this tricky on the first time of ever asking you about coefficients. And like the top of your page says, off to the right, a coefficient is the number that is multiplied by the variable in an algebraic expression. Okay, when we look at plus D, we just see a plain old D. There is no number in front of it to multiply, so that just means that the coefficient is 1. I'm going to have to write this down here at the bottom. Because it's basically just D multiplied times 1, which would get us whatever that value of D is. Okay, on to page 249. Kristen works at a supermarket. She wants to divide a box of apples equally among 3 displays. Let F represent the total number of apples. So there's F. Complete the bar model to express the number of apples each display will have. So let's see. So we can just write 1/3. If we are splitting this box of apples equally into 3 displays, we would split it into thirds. So we wind up with 1/3 times F, 1/3 of this unknown value, and 1/3 of this unknown value. So then they tell us to write an algebraic expression that represents the number of apples each display will have. Write your answer as a product and a quotient. So that means we need to show one way of finding our answer by multiplying and the other one by dividing. So to find it as a product, we would have 1/3 times F. To show it as a quotient, we would have F over 3, because that shows that F is our numerator and F is being divided by 3, which is our denominator. Now to add a little bit more to it, it says for C that Kristen decides to use an additional 12 apples for each display. What is the new algebraic expression that represents the number of apples each display will have? And guys, we are just going to use these 2 expressions that we have up here for question B, but now we need to add 12 apples to each one of these. So we would have 1/3 F plus 12, and 12 would be that constant, or we would write F over 3 plus 12. Hopefully this is making some sense. So, time to check understanding. Raj is 3 inches taller than Howard. So that's important. Raj is 3 inches taller than Howard. The H is going to represent Howard's height. Write an algebraic expression to represent Raj's height. So for this one, we know that we're going to be adding 3 inches to whatever Howard's height is. So we would have H plus 3, or when you're adding, you can put these 2 in any order, so it could be H plus 3 or 3 plus H. Either way, you would get the same answer if you knew the value of H. Number 2, Marcus has 4 times the sum of 6 and the number of marbles David has. Let D represent the number of marbles David has. Write an algebraic expression to represent how many marbles Marcus has. So, let's see. Marcus has 4 times the sum of 6 and the number of marbles David has. So we know right here that the sum of 6 and the number of marbles David has, that's going to have to go in parentheses, because we have to find the sum of those two values before we can multiply times 4. So I'm going to put 6 plus D in parentheses, and then I would multiply it times 4 to show, here's this, if it says 4 times the sum of 6 and the number of marbles David has, well, in here we would find the sum, because we're adding 6 plus D, and then we would put the 4 on the outside of the parentheses, because whatever value we get in here is the sum, and it'd be multiplied times 4. Okay, for these last two, it says that we need to write an algebraic expression for the words that were given here. Then we need to identify the coefficient. And remember that a coefficient is the number that is multiplied by the variable in an expression, algebraic expression. So let's see, we have the quotient of t and 13. So we know that quotient means we're going to be showing division somehow, and we have t for our variable, so we would have t divided by 13, and if we have to find the coefficient, well, what number is being multiplied times t? And that would just be a 1. Let's see, for the last one, the product of g and 2 plus m. So we know we're going to be multiplying something because we have to find the product. We also know that we are going to be doing some adding because we are, or they use the word plus, which means we have to add something. So if it's saying the product of g and 2, that means we need to write 2 times g to show that it's being multiplied, plus m. So somehow we would add this m. Also, you can put it in either order because of the commutative property. 2g plus m equals the same thing as m plus 2g. Then it tells us that we need to identify the coefficients. So when we take a look at 2 times g, 2g, what is g being multiplied by? It is being multiplied by 2. And then we have to take a look at the m for our variable. M is all by itself. It doesn't have, it's not labeled with a coefficient, so it's one of those invisible math things that it's just automatically multiplied by 1. So the coefficient of m is 1. So what you guys need to do is make sure that you bring your notes back to class tomorrow, and I'll check them in class, and then we will get to work on our activities for the day. I'll see you all at school. Bye.